into somebody's driveway. And the mic, it's hard to hear. I told my daughter, I says, you count the no's, I'll count the yays.
Daniel's all good, except for Zach.
I didn't even know that was going on.
Yeah,
Today was a big day under the Golden Bill. Only 2 bills.
So-
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks very much, everybody. It is 6:02, and it is November 16th. Deerfield Municipal Budget Committee, let's all stand for the pledge. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Can we do the roll call first?
Okay.
That would be great. Mr. Dill's here. Ms. Bobian?
Here.
Mr. Bilodeau?
Here.
Ms. Bradbury?
Here.
Mr. Cresswell?
Here.
Mr. Langlois is excused. Ms. Messier?
Yes.
Ms. Quinn?
Here.
Mr. Roy? Orville? And
Yep.
I am here. Okay, so we have next the approval of the meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review those from our last meeting? So I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes as written.
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Jocelyn, motion by Maureen. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That was votes.
Abstain. I wasn't here.
Okay, just one abstention. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yeas. All right. Old or unfinished business, I don't recall if we had any. I think we asked Mr. Langlois for the breakdown of the surplus, and that was provided in our minutes, and we approved those, so I think we're good with that.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Verval.
Yeah, I just want to apologize to the committee. The last meeting I was at, my notes were incomplete, and we passed salary adjustments for town employees 2 years in a row by overwhelming margins, and I have to admit I'm delinquent again tonight. I don't have my notes. Oh, actually, I think I do. Give me 1 second, and I can just tell you which years those were.
Is this coming under old business?
Yeah, old business. So in 2020, we passed salary adjustments 821 to 421, and in 2019, we also passed salary adjustments 790 to 303. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Verval. Okay, is any additional old business? We'll move on to new business. And department heads, I noticed that,
Did I make my motion now?
sure, go ahead.
All right. I'd like to move the town budget, the bottom line of the town budget, the amount of $4,654,278.00.
Mr. Chairman,
Is there a second?
Second.
point of order.
Just a minute. The motion's been seconded.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Verval.
So the last meeting I was at, this committee took a vote about moving the bottom line, and that vote failed. And so what would be in order would be a motion to reconsider. The motion to reconsider must be made by a member that voted on the prevailing side. Mr. Dill, Selectman Dill, did not vote on the prevailing side, and therefore, this motion is out of order. And for that reason, the chair should not accept it.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Roy.
I would also object on the grounds that it's illegal. The statute clearly calls for us to go through the budget, to review it, to talk to department heads. The statute is clear. Such a vote and such an action would be illegal.
The statute says no such thing, Mr. Roy. The statute says the
Actually,
governing
can we-
body.
It does say such a thing.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chairman, I would ask for a ruling on my point of order before we devolve into further discussion on this motion.
Move to table the motion to move the bottom line budget.
The motion is out of order, and so therefore.
Why
there
is it
no
out of
table.
order?
Because we already decided this point 2 meetings ago when they discussed moving the bottom line. The committee had a vote about moving the bottom line of the town budget, and we said no. The prevailing side said no. So the motion would be to reconsider that vote. A motion to reconsider must be made by a member on the prevailing side, not by a member of the minority. Selectman Dill voted with the minority on that vote, and therefore it is out of order for him to make that motion.
Do you have
Mr.
a
Chair,
do you have a statute, Mr. Verrill?
My understanding is we go by Robert's Rules of Order, and that is standard Robert Rules of Order. So that's why I bring it up, that the motion is out of order, because he's not following our agreed-upon parliamentary procedure. And I would think the select representative would know that.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Dill?
last night at the Board of Selectmen meeting, since we had a cordial discussion about this at the last meeting, we reached a compromise to bring in 4 department heads and move the bottom line budget. That is what the Board of Selectmen voted on.
The Board of Selectmen has no authority over the
And
budget.
on top of
committee.
that, Mr. Chair, the RSA clearly states that the governing body present the budget to the Municipal Budget Committee. It does not state anywhere in that RSA that the Budget Committee can tell the governing body, whether the selectmen or the school board, how to do that.
This budget that you're moving to the bottom line is not the same budget that we voted on, correct?
In what way has it changed?
It has, the bottom line changed. It is not the same budget. It now includes the insurance and other items that were missing in the original budget.
But we didn't vote on the budget, we voted on the procedure. There was
we
no
voted on
budget. They had
procedure.
voted on it.
The motion was to vote on the bottom line. And so he's making the same motion, and that was voted down by this committee. The rule of the chair should be that the motion is out of order, and if the member really wants to move it, he should find a member of the majority that he can sway, because otherwise you're going to get the same vote. He should find a member of the majority that he could sway to make that motion for him. Procedurally, that's how it should operate.
I tend to agree with that.
Mr. Chair?
So, yes, Ms.
Since I'm
Quinn?
one of the votes on the prevailing side, I have a question.
Sure.
And that is, if I were to make such a motion, would we still be interviewing the 4 department chairs?
Yes,
So,
that's our plan,
and that motion wouldn't change that,
correct.
right?
Right.
So it doesn't change the process by which we consider the budget,
Correct.
whether this motion passes or
Correct.
not, right?
We have an understanding that we will still meet with the 4 or 5 heavy hitters in the
Large
budget.
item.
We have the
And
police
and library, and anybody else who would like to appear. We've extended an olive branch to every department head in the town to come and sit down and spend time with us, explain their budget. So,
And those conversations would take part as part of the discussion once the motion's made and seconded, yes?
correct.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Rural.
thank you. So,
I thought I was
and
talking.
thank you, Ms. Quinn, I appreciate it. So the motion would actually be to reconsider the decision. And that's one motion. And if we decide to reconsider, then we could take up the motion. But we need to be very careful. We need to be aware that if there's a motion on the bottom line, and that motion is accepted, then that is it. We are done. If we approve the bottom line of this budget, that's it, you're done. So the way that we do this is we go department by department. So we move the bottom line of a department, discuss
I
that
don't need you to
budget.
explain the process to
We-
me, Mr.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
we've
fine.
we've got the process down. You've been on the NBC, we've all been there. So, in fairness, I do think, since this is a different budget from what we originally discussed, I think we do need a motion to reconsider.
I would like to make that motion that we reconsider the bottom
Oh.
line budget.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Quinn,
Second.
seconded by Joanne Barberry. Any discussion, any further discussion on this?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Verrill?
My only statement is that you have to be very, very careful, because if somebody moves the bottom line and that vote passes, it doesn't matter what you want to consider at that point. The budget
I
will,
get-
excuse me, if I could finish my remarks, please. You move the bottom line and that motion passes, then our exercise here is done. The town line, bottom line budget, as we have it, that is what we will have moved. If you want to consider individual budgets, then you have to do that before you move the bottom line. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Bradbury?
I believe that if we table the motion to move the motion and second to move the bottom line until after we have heard from the department heads we expect to hear from, including the four, including the police chief who is here tonight, that we accomplish that very thing.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Verrill?
And how were the 4 departments that we're going to interview decided?
We decided based on the fact that they have the largest impact to the overall budget, the town budget. Fire.
So there was a vote to invite 4 and only 4?
There was an agreement
So
with the select board and the select board representative to, as a compromise, to allow, if they so choose, to come in the 4 large departments.
forgive my
that
ignorance,
have-
when was that decision made?
Last meeting, I believe, when you weren't here.
None of, if it was done last evening, none of us were here.
Last meeting.
Last meeting.
We
Last
discussed it
meeting,
at
we
the last
discussed
meeting.
it,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
But was there a vote on that? Was that formalized?
I believe there was.
Yep.
I believe there was. Ms. Bradbury?
I'd also like to point out that we are asking all of the other department heads to come and talk to us, and that the 4 that we're getting that are being asked to come here by the select board are not the only 4 we expect to hear from. I expect that most of the department heads, if not all, will want to come and talk to us about their budget.
Oh, I'd certainly hope so.
Yes, I would too.
All right,
Mr. Chair,
so, yes.
for point of clarification, we were just talking about the RSA and the preparation of the budget. If I could just indulge me to read the first paragraph. It says the governing body or the municipal budget committee, if there is one, shall prepare the budget. It's our budget. It's not their budget. They don't give us a budget. It's our budget. When we, the town, voted for a municipal budget committee, that means that the budget is prepared for line by line by us, not the municipal budget, not by the select board. The
Yep.
statute could not be more clear.
Correct. I don't think we're debating that at this point. There is a motion to move the bottom line, but
Mr.
that
Chair,
is,
Has there been a motion to move the bottom line?
Well, there's a motion to reconsider.
there was a motion to reconsider. It was, I believe was it seconded?
Yes.
Yes. Joanne, excuse me.
Just to
So-
move it along, and I think in the
Just
right
to-
direction.
Yeah, just to move it along. So Joanne seconded, and I'm going to close the discussion on it. So all in favor to reconsider? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 yeas, all opposed. 3 to 5,
I abstain.
and Phil abstains.
Question, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bilodeau?
If, as I understand, we don't want to hear the bottom line, we just want to hear from the individual, why don't we just take the individuals as they come? So if the police is here now, let's hear police, and we'll move on police.
That's our plan, that's our goal.
No,
would be
no,
to-
Mr. Dill was going to move the bottom line.
That's correct.
I was going,
Which he can now do because the
Which he
motion to
can
reconsider has
do.
been accepted.
and I'll explain why I'm moving the bottom line, to prevent us from having to open and move every department. There is no reason,
That's our job.
there's an apples to oranges situation going on here. If that's your job, why don't we do that with the school? We don't do that with the school. We haven't done that for years
We
in the
should. The
school.
law says we should.
Maybe
The
we
law does
should.
not,
I'm looking at the
Mr.
law.
Roy.
It does.
All right,
The Municipal Association disagrees with your
Do you have that in
interpretation
writing?
of the RSA.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hey.
we do.
Share it with us.
gentlemen, please.
Jesus.
Mr. Chairman,
There's-
he's saying
there's-
he's got a legal opinion from the Municipal Association that he hasn't shared with the Budget Committee.
Are we
So,
gonna do anything tonight? Because if we're not gonna do anything, I'm gonna close the meeting and go home.
motion to adjourn. You want a motion to adjourn? I'll give it to you.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
2 people, motion fails. All right, so we have a motion to reconsider, it's been approved.
I will make a motion again in the amount of $4,064,278.00, which is the Board of Selectmen bottom line budget.
What was that number again, please?
$4,654,278.00.
So do we have new copies that have the bottom line accurate? We got it last week.
Yeah. All right. So,
Was there a second?
was there a second?
I'll second it.
Maureen, seconded. All in favor?
Wait a minute. Any
We have to
discussion?
have a discussion,
I'm not
sorry.
calling for a vote now.
We're gonna have to
Right,
have a
because you're not the chair.
we're gonna have to have a discussion on this. It's open for discussion.
What exactly was the motion?
Motion to move the bottom line,
And it was seconded.
and it was seconded.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Roy?
If we call a vote past that, what would be the point of any further meetings? We can hear from every department head we want, but we've already passed the budget. So I'm just, maybe I'm wrong, I'm confused.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Bradbury?
Move to table the motion to move the bottom line.
Second.
Is there a second? Phil, Bilodeau?
I had the same thought, that we table the bottom line and we go to all the individual. That would give us
Correct.
the opportunity to go to all the individuals.
Correct.
And
That's what
Yes.
I want to do.
All right, so we have a motion to table, and we have a second by Mr. Bilodeau. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Everyone? It's unanimous.
Nay.
Okay, 1 nay, sorry. 7 to 8, I'm sorry, 7 to 1. Is there any abstention? No. All right, so the motion passes, and we have tabled the bottom line motion. So we'll move on, and at this point, we have to move things along. We have Chief Duquette here, and he's going to talk to us, and we'll put him first. I know he's not on the agenda, but he's done us a favor by coming here tonight.
That's page 30.
Page 30, and Mr. Duquette, appreciate it, thanks so much.
No problem.
So we are looking at the police budget.
it varies.
And it is page 30 for everyone.
Oh, it's on the
All right. Yeah, we're looking at a select board budget of, okay, no, I wish I had my glasses. Now,
Do you want a motion for the police budget, Mr. Chairman?
we're gonna
for
work on that.
discussion? Because I'll make
yeah,
it.
so I need a motion to open discussion on the police budget, page 30. Seconded, any second?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Verl.
typically, the motion is the bottom line of the sub-budget, and then we go through it. So perhaps the motion could be amended to move 95,000, I'm sorry, that's not the right line.
That's not it.
897,884.
I was getting there.
That's not actually my motion. My motion is simply to discuss the police budget. We can see the number.
Okay,
I'll second that.
second. All right, We're open for discussion. Chief Ducat, thank you.
Yeah, typically I can just give a rundown of the changes that were in the budget from last year, and then, be happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Sure.
This won't take long. The biggest increase, of course, part of it is salaries. I mean, that's what we are, it's the people working there. Overall increase is just a little bit under 15% overall for the whole budget. I guess just bear in mind that that's 15% over however many year default budget that we're in. It's actually only maybe 2.3% over what I proposed last year. The increases is, of course, the full-time employee line for the officers, which is step increases based on a pay scale that was approved by the Board of Selectmen back in 2017. And along with that they're required to have a satisfactory performance evaluation to get that raise. And so those increases also affect the median rate that you'll see up top there too, which also affects the shift differential, holiday pay, and the overtime rates. So that's all in that top section of that first page of the budget. The other thing that went up substantially was the retirement line, New Hampshire State Retirement. There was a big increase in that. That, of course, we have no say in. There's nothing that we can really do about that. Other than that, there's a decrease in the contract line. There was a cost savings to our computer-aided dispatch system. We upgraded that, I think it's 2 years ago now. So it shifted some of the maintenance costs over to Rockingham County Dispatch, so that saved us a little bit there. I added $4,400 into our gasoline line. I think we were set at like $2.25 a gallon. That got bumped up town-wide, I think $2.99 a gallon this year, which is even still low compared to what we're all paying, right? And other than that, I added another $5,700 into the cruiser line. We've been stuck at that $36,000 mark for longer than I've been here. Cars get more expensive every year. I've changed over to what we've been buying to try and save money and the equipment that we're using. But there's really just not enough money in there to buy a new cruiser and upfit it. And other than that, everything stayed the same.
So I had a question for you. Are you anticipating purchasing another cruiser this year?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. And are we under contract for gasoline? Like when would that expire?
No, we don't bid on.
There's no contract,
There's no
no.
contract for
No.
gasoline? Okay.
It wouldn't make sense because we'd have to build a storage facility, and it's better for us long-term just to buy it.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was like heating oil
No.
where they deliver.
We
on a
do for
regular
heating oil,
basis.
we do for propane, but we don't for gas.
So the only thing that kind of pops out at me is that over the past few years, the budget item has been like $438,000 and hasn't really even come close to that. But then this year, it's gone from last year's budget of 438 to 503, which seems like a pretty substantial increase. And
You talking about the salary line?
yes,
Yeah,
sorry,
yes,
yeah, the
yes.
salary line.
Yeah, but that's from the default, though. That's from the default budget.
Okay, but it appears as though you haven't even really come close to the default number. If
I was
you?
actually over budget last year.
okay,
I was at, I believe I was almost at 110% last year on the budget. The default budgets have caught up to us.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
I'm a little bit better this year, but
Are
yeah.
we fully
it's-
staffed currently?
We're
Mr.
fully
Verl?
staffed, yes.
Yeah,
Mr. Verl.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, there are actually budgets in front of you, Chief Ducat. Thank you for coming in, by the way. I
Oh, no,
appreciate-
no
appreciate your
problem.
time.
No thanks necessary.
Perhaps you could grab one of those and just flip to page 30, because it's the top line on line 30. And so what the chairman is pointing out is that in 2020, the budget was $439,070, and we spent $395,246. And in 2021, the budget, because of the default, is 439.70 again. Year-to-date actual is 361,908. So if we included November and December, I'm going to assume that that's going to come close. So we're still under the budget amount, and I believe that that's where the chairman's question is coming from.
So you're saying, you mean that's where we are right now?
Right.
Yeah.
The three, what is that,
361.
361 is where we are in November, on October, excuse me. And so, we still have 2 months left in the budget.
Yep.
It would seem to be kind of aggressive to hit that 438 again, or even come close to it.
So,
Yes, no?
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a refining question that might help us a little bit?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. So I was listening to you, and I have to admit, I got a little confused, and it's been a few years since I've served on this committee. I've gotten a little rusty. So if we take a teacher's contract, right, so they have a pay grid with experience in years, and no matter what the budget, you still move down, through that grid. I understand, if I understood you correctly, the police department has a similar grid for officers. Are they moving along that grid year to year, even during default budgets? Or am I to understand that our officers have basically not received salary adjustments in some period of time?
No, they have been receiving them. Since we put that in place in 2017, they've been receiving them. The scale carries out over, it's either 9 years or 11 years. Anyways, the first 5 years, and then after 5 years, it jumped every 2 years until they hit that 11th year, and then it's topped out at that point. So, yeah, but they have been getting them.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
So, yeah, certainly, Mr. Chairman. So I have to admit, based on that, I'm a little curious too, that we're proposing jumping from basically 440 to 503, when even with those salary adjustments, because they're built in, they're contractual at this point, we're still under hitting the number. So the almost 15%, if we add the overtime, it probably would be 15%. Why that jump is recommended? I'm still having trouble connecting those dots.
John, do you have something on that?
Chief Duquette, were you fully staffed at January 1 of this year?
No.
That would account for the difference. What you're seeing for the proposed budget is an amount to fund fully staffed police department, which it is now. As of January 1 of 2021, the department was not fully staffed. So those monies were not being spent, which is why your year-to-date is not kept up.
And the other problem with that is if you're down somebody, and if I brought somebody in, if I was able to bring somebody in that was an experienced officer, I would start them at a higher level that would fall on that pay scale. If they were certified full-time guys, so it's kind of really hard to put it right to the exact amount that you need. And staffing is, I've been fully staffed, I think, 1 full year since I've been here in 7.5 years. That's the longest time we've gone. So, when we aren't fully staffed, obviously there's a salary that we're not paying out. So, it's hard to get it to the exact.
I fully understand.
Exact point that
And
we
then
need.
I'd also like to
Okay.
point out, if we're not fully staffed, we're smacking the overtime line hard. So,
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Roy.
I just have a couple of quick questions. So, did you pick a mid-range for the full, is that how you came up with the number?
With the numbers? Yeah, well, I looked around at a lot of different departments of similar size, staffing levels and structure, and just kind of found, when I got here in 2014, I'm going to tell you, this was a woefully underpaid department. We were below pretty much everybody. So I kind of tried to find a happy medium there. I want us to be competitive. We're not the highest paid. We're not on the bottom of the barrel. It's really difficult to find people and then let alone keep them in a small department like this. So yeah, I just found kind of a middle ground there, and that's what I used to develop a pay scale.
Thank you. What I really meant was though, if, when you hire some, in other words, you weren't fully staffed, anticipating getting fully staffed, not knowing where that person would fall in the pay scales, did you just assume somewhere in the middle of it? That would give you someone with experience?
Correct. That's hopefully that would happen. Yeah, yeah.
And my last question, if I may, does the police department have body cams?
No, sir. We have in cruiser cameras. Yeah.
Have you, I'm sorry, has the department expressed an interest in getting body cams?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I had I'm familiar with them. I had them in my department. That I came from Maine. We had body cameras in Maine. So I have my thoughts on those. Is it something that I would like to have? Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's all about money.
This would be the
And, you
place to
know,
ask, so-
I know there's grants, they're talking about the grant coming out, but, you know, you're looking at 50%, and the town has to come up with the rest of it, so, it's all about the money.
Do you have an estimate about roughly what that would cost?
I don't off the top of my head, no.
Okay,
I
all
would
right.
have to reach out to some vendors and
Because
look
that
into
would be something I personally would support. I don't know the rest of the board, but we also have the ability to add money to the budget as well as cut it, so if,
Could you speak to retention real quick, in the context of the pay scale? Are we doing better on retention
is
now?
the chair now, or?
Little by little, it's taken a lot of years to find people to work here, find the right people to work here in this community. And I think as time has gone on since I've been here, I think the retention has gotten better. You know, we had some issues when I first got here, but I think that we've got a really good group right now, and I think that we're in good shape, and I think we'll be that way for a while.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Verbo.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chief. Enlightening is always appreciated when you come in. So we started Jan 1, we weren't fully staffed. How many positions were we down Jan 1 of 2021? Down one position. And when did we fill that position? Approximately.
Mid-year?
So June, July. Okay, so we've got a half year budgeted for the one that we were down. Okay, so appreciate it. I don't think I have any. Well, I guess I have one other question, if I may, for cruises. Have you started shopping? Are you going to be able to find one? I know there's like car shortages going on, dude.
Man, I'll tell you, the whole COVID thing, I mean, we went, I've never had such a hard time to get cars in my life. And then, it's not only that, it's the upfitting, just to get the equipment to upfit them. And we went months. And it's so hard because you put so many more miles on the cars that you do have. We were running Fords. I switched over to Dodge Chargers. I've got one Ford marked unit, one Explorer left, which will be the next one to go. It's a 2018 with 120,000 miles on it. The maintenance kills us. I'm like $2,500 over on my maintenance line.
We're still doing one cruiser a year, is that? We're still on that
And
schedule?
we are, and by the time we do that, the one that goes is 3 years old, and we're well over, we're at the 120, 125,000 mile range, hard miles, as you know. So I switched over to Dodge Chargers because, quite frankly, they were probably $9,000 less than the Fords were. I don't buy light bars anymore. It's interior lighting. I'm trying to save where I can because it just gets worse every year. Light bars are good. Light bars, $4,000, $4,500, and they work fine for us. And the guys are happy with them. They're all-wheel drive, just like the Fords were. But so we've had to make a lot of adjustments just to try and stay in that amount that we have to use here.
Great, thank you, Chief.
Ms. Bradbury.
Yes, Chief, can you get back to us with the price of the body cameras? I think I'd certainly like to know that number, and I know Mr. Roy would like to know it as well. So if you could get back to us with that, just by.
Yeah, I can certainly try to do that. Yeah,
That would be
absolutely.
helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're expensive. It's, you know, the body cameras are easy. It's not the body cameras, it's the storage that goes along with it. That's the expensive part of it. The
So
body
how
cams
long-
are
How long do you
not
have
that bad.
How long do you have to store the images?
Well, I can't answer that off the top of my head either.
Okay.
You have to develop a policy and figure out what you want to keep, and so there's a lot to that. So
Okay.
I can't answer that off the top of my head right now.
Okay, just curious.
So just for point of
Mr.
reference,
Verrill.
I know I've heard discussions on the radio, I want to say Nashua, but I couldn't swear to it. You know, they've basically chosen to contract with a third-party vendor, so you don't actually buy or anything or own anything, you're leasing it. But then, of course, you're paying, you know, the overhead of that company to manage that program for you. So, you know, I don't know if that makes it better or worse. I just anecdotally, I heard that recently on the radio.
And it might, I mean, that's what we do with our tasers. We don't buy them anymore. We basically are on a you know, 3-year lease program with them, which actually works, because, you know, this technology stuff, I mean, 3 or 4 years, it's outdated. It's ridiculous.
One,
Okay, Mr. Dale.
just one follow-up on the cruisers. You've also switched to V6s, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, which has been a savings on maintenance and on fuel since we were running the Fords, which is just an added bonus on them.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Cresswell.
Very quick question, Chief. Your fuel line, given that the gas prices are increasing, and not knowing what the actual cost will be next year, do you feel that the amount that you've asked for is going to be sufficient for the year?
I hope so. I don't know. You know, we've been maintaining it. You know, we try to, I mean, the officers are conscious of it. You know, it's a big town, it's just a lot of road miles. But they're conscious of it, so they do their best to keep it down as much as they can without sitting still for too long. So I think we'll probably be okay.
Great. Any other further discussions, questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Chief. I appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
Thanks so much.
No problem.
Really appreciate it. So we're going to close the discussion, then entertain a motion to approve
So moved.
the police department budget for, let me say the number.
Okay, go ahead.
887-84, all right. 887,
9/7.
897,
884.
884, sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded, Mr. Verwell. Mr. Roy motion, Mr. Verwell seconded. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, I have
Yes.
just a couple more questions before we call the roll, if it's okay. A question for the town administrator. Mr. Herring,
Okay.
do we have any idea, are we likely to close with a surplus this year again? I know it's 2 months out, but.
I was just going to say, it's 2 months out. We are at the 80% expenditure for the year, but with 2 months, not knowing what the winter season's going to throw at us, that can turn the budget quickly. Because once we start having to hire winter contractors and pay them and the supplies for the road, it jumps the budget up quickly.
Thank you. Just one last comment, if I can, Mr. Chairman. I fully support the police department in Deerfield. I think they're wonderful people, and they do a great job. But this budget's a 15% increase, and if there aren't savings found somewhere, I don't believe it'll pass in March, and we'll be back to another year default. I believe that there's probably some savings that could come from the full-time and potentially the overtime lines, but I know I don't have the votes for that. The good news is that the policemen of Deerfield are going to get their raise, whether it's a default budget or this budget, because they're lucky enough to be under contract. So thank goodness they'll get the pay raises they certainly deserve. But because of the 15% that we're going to work our way to, I unfortunately have to vote no, because we have to find savings where we can to get that number down to get it to pass. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the budget.
One more point, if I could, before we
Yes,
go.
Mr. Roy.
Will not we, now that we're fully staffed, the overtime line should, in and of
That should-
itself, naturally shrink, correct?
Correct. Correct.
You know, here's the problem. We keep going back to default budgets. You don't know, I can't guarantee that these people are gonna stay here. I mean, there's just unknowns in this whole thing, and it's really hard to say. I get where you're coming from. I understand that thought process, but like I say, I've been fully staffed for 1 full year. That's the longest I've gone. I've told these folks, if I could keep this crew here till I retire, which isn't far down the road, I will be a really happy man if they're all still sitting here. But I don't know that. You just never know what people are gonna do. So to take that away and somebody leaves, then what, you know, it just goes right back to where we were again. And it's hard to do. It's hard to do.
I wasn't suggesting taking it away. I was suggesting that it will probably shrink on its own now that you're fully staffed.
That is the hope. That's been my hope since I've been here, to shrink that overtime budget.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? So we'll take a vote. All those in favor of approving the budget, raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Mr. Dill, are you?
Yes.
8. All those opposed? 1. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you, too.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll
Motion.
make a motion to discuss the library budget on page 71.
Yes, second. Sorry.
We have
It's
librarians.
just a reaction. What can I tell you? So we have a second? Do we have a second? We do. Joanne Bradbury.
I think you seconded it.
I did. I don't know. You know, I do that in my, I'm almost in
I
my,
assume
doing that in my
that's why you're
sleep now. What can I tell you? So we're going to page 71 for the library. Thank you so much for the library people being here again.
So I'm Sadie Stimmel. I'm on the Board of Trustees, and we have our treasurer here. Our director is not here. She resigned a few weeks ago, and so we're here representing the library budget. Mainly the increases have been, we asked for 3% increases for our staff, and that's really about it. We've had a few changes in different line items. We've had some decreases and increases that kind of even out.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Earl?
Yeah, so I can't help but notice that the full-time employee budget was just over $52,000. And that's already spent well over $72,000, which is way over budget. And I'm wondering if somebody can explain to me how and why that is.
Kevin, are you talking about the full-time or part-time, or both? Because you added both.
Right now, I'm looking at just the full-time line. It was budgeted at 52,481, and year-to-date actual is 72,882.05, and this run was near the end of October, so there's still 1/6 of the year left to pay in salaries.
Correct. That was because there was an oversight in preparing the default budget for 2021, and the warrant article that was approved by the town for the children's librarian was left out of the default budget at the cost of $35,000 plus benefits. So that's why you're seeing that line overspent. That person was hired, but there wasn't money in the default budget before it was voted on.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. I appreciate that. Follow-up to either the library or the town manager, whoever wants to take it. Town administrator, sorry. Mr. Chairman, is that all right?
Yes, go ahead.
So my understanding is you're looking at a 3% salary adjustment? Because I'm looking at 72%, right?
Yeah.
It's here, but I'm assuming that has to do with the miscalculation of the default budget.
Yes.
The majority of that, yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Bilodeau?
So could, I guess I'm not, I hate to admit that I don't frequent the library. I hate to admit that I don't frequent the library. How many staff are there now? And there's word in town that the director's gone. Has she been gone for a month or 6 weeks or?
It's not been that long. When was, do you recall her last day?
It was about 3 weeks.
October 19th.
Yeah, October 19th was the director's last day. So we currently have in-house a full-time children's librarian and 2 part-time staff members. One of those staff members has stepped in as an interim director, and we have a hiring committee and applications coming in for the director position.
If you look to your backup, which is after the library,
Yeah.
it has all those director salaries and part-time employee salaries broken out.
So one of the questions I had was that, how competitive is the salary in comparison to the surrounding towns of similar size?
Yeah, that was actually part of our determining factor in asking for the increase, was we are currently lower than towns of our size and area. And so, yeah, it's not nearly as competitive, and I think we said last time that our director did leave for a better paying director position.
Okay. And how much lower are we compared to others?
I'm afraid I don't have those numbers offhand. I would say, yeah, I would not want to go on record with
Okay.
specific guess numbers at
But
this point.
you do have candidates in line at this point? You're in the interviewing process?
We're hoping to move into the interviewing process soon. It's really just been a week that we've had the job posted, and some applications are trickling in. I don't know the quality of those at this time.
Okay. And can you reveal the salary range for that position?
We advertised 46 to 50, commensurate on experience. And, you know, we'd like to have some money to be able to offer a decent salary if we get somebody in, that, you know, get an applicant that looks good.
And you feel that will attract a candidate?
Hopeful. We'll see
Sure.
how it plays out.
Okay. Ms. Bradbury?
Yeah, so does the 90,271 for full-time employee, does that reflect a salary for the director of 50,000, or does it reflect what the director was making when she left?
It reflects what the director was making when she left.
So does that mean that we could possibly subtract $4,000, expect that it could be at least $4,000 less than that? Because if you're advertising 46,000 to 50,000, would it be accurate to say that budget for a time at least will be less than the current?
That is definitely a possibility. I would hate to lower it at this point and say we got an excellent applicant in and not have something that we could negotiate with.
So do you think you will have to raise the amount based on getting a candidate that you think is perfect for the job, but who expects to be paid at least $54,000?
I don't know. I don't know.
This is generally how we budget an open position. We'll leave the previous employee salary in there until we hire somebody, and then adjust it the next year.
Okay.
I have a question,
Mr.
Mr. Chair. Does the town, do we have any human resources, or is this just each department head kind of is their own HR? Is that how this works?
Human resources for what exactly?
Hiring, recruitment, things of that nature?
We advertise townwide. The library is a unique animal. Like I've said before, they actually have more hiring and firing powers than the other departments. But no, we don't have a central HR that does the hiring interviews, et cetera.
Thank you.
So essentially, I apologize, essentially it's left by the department heads to make the decision and then they
And
go
then
through
it
whatever
comes to
the
then it
vetting
comes to
process
the
is.
Board of, I don't believe for the library, but for, say, police or transfer station, they'll interview, bring a candidate choice to us, to the board, and then the board will vote on it.
Okay. Any other questions for the library people? Anything?
I'd also point out that the town has taken over the cleaning cost from the library. No, we didn't this year. Okay, I thought we did. I'm getting a no. I retract that.
Okay, any further discussion? So I will.
I have one more
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Why do we have
Joanne.
we have, okay, so we had no dues and subscriptions for the past couple of years, and I know it's only $450, but what's changed?
What changed was we have in the default budget. I'll have to be-
Sorry, sorry.
Can we,
Okay, you can both sit there.
Yeah.
All right, I get to look at this because I'm the treasurer.
Ah.
I don't really understand it all, but anyway. In the default budget, a lot of these lines have zero. So when we go back to a default budget, we lose that line. We can't add money to it because we don't even have $1, because I know that's what we can do. So we're trying to put money into that line because, yes, we do have those. We have to move them to other lines in order to pay for them.
Just
I understand.
if you look at your backup, the second page has the breakout of the dues and subscriptions for the library. Professional dues, trustees, children's librarian dues, and the library journal for $450.
And so we're actually paying it now, we just don't have it in those
We
lines.
pay
in
it,
the budget.
right, but we have to,
Okay, I was
Paying
wondering.
it.
we have to give it
I was
another
wondering.
name.
But since it's a bottom line budget, you're moving
Right.
money around within your budget to pay for the $450.
Okay.
I guess you could probably put $1 in there as a placeholder
Well, that's
for future, right?
That's what we'd like to do, but I don't know if we can just do that when it's a default budget.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Verbal.
Yeah, so the way it works is if you have $1 as a placeholder in a line item, then you can move money into that line item. If a line item is showed at 0, it's considered closed, and so that line item cannot be used until you get a budget that populates it with $1 or more. So basically, they're trying to repopulate it so that they can properly account for it. 'Cause right now, they're essentially improperly accounting for spending that they're doing it. They're burying it somewhere else because they're paying it. So it's another one of the reasons it would be very nice to be able to get this number down to a number that might pass in March so that we could get past the current default budget cycle. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Verbal.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Roy.
Quick question to whoever can answer this. The library is kind of an independent creature, as you said. Does the insurance cover them that the town gets, or do they have to get their own insurance? Where are they liability insurance?
Liability or building?
Either or. Do we have an umbrella policy? I mean,
Yes, we do.
and
On-
that
on
covers
both
the
of those.
library?
That comes out of out of the straight insurance building line.
Okay, thank
And the
you.
Though they are an independent department from the rest of the town government, our liability, workers' comp, and unemployment covers them because they are actually town employees, just under the auspices of the trustees.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's just that trustee part, when it comes to their day-to-day function, makes them more independent than other departments.
Okay. Any further questions for the library folks?
I have one quick question.
Ms. Quinn?
I'm just curious why the line item for equipment is dropped down to $1. You don't anticipate any equipment needs?
And in the backup, I just have $750 on equipment, so I can't help you on that one.
I don't know why that is, to be honest.
I mean, as long as there's $1 in there, then you could shift.
Right.
You can move it around, right?
Just curious what the rationale was for that.
I know that you recently went through a computerization process, I guess, to upgrade everything in the library. Maybe that was a holdover from that.
We have some gaps in knowledge.
Sure.
Because
Okay.
of our,
Sorry,
our,
don't mean to put you on the spot, honest.
yeah, our director left, and
She was the one that
she
developed the
prepared the
budget.
budget.
Okay, all right.
And even though she came to us with the information, what went to the town ended up being what she sent, and then she left.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know why that's $1. I would like to investigate that, actually.
Well, the good thing, it's $1, and you can
Right.
move money around into it, so, you know.
And we
Does the
certainly
default
do.
budget have $1?
It should, yes,
Okay.
The default budget would actually be $750.
$750 is
Yeah.
the default.
Very good, yeah.
Okay.
We do need equipment.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so we'll close the discussion on this and take a vote. And a motion on the bottom line of the library for $152,000. Congratulations, you got a whole new building.
Building in town.
And some property to go with it, what can I tell you? $152,387.
So moved.
Okay, seconded by Bonnie.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 1. All opposed? 1. Motion
Abstain.
passes.
Abstain.
Congratulations. Oh, I'm sorry, abstain?
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
I'm a trustee. Oh.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's 711?
Yep. 7, 1, and 1 abstain. Great, thank you very much. Motion passes. Okay, next up, I'm gonna go basically by page number so that we're not kind of flip-flopping our budgets all around, if that's okay with everyone. So it may not be exactly in line with what our agenda says, but I'm gonna go to page 1, executive.
Page 1.
Yep. And we're looking at a budget of $17,501. So have a motion?
I moved
Bonnie
it.
Gobian,
Yep,
motion.
17,501 for executive.
Yep. Any second?
Second.
Jocelyn seconds. Okay, we'll open for discussion.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Vogel.
Question for the town administrator. What is the annual revenue of the trust funds that are caught under line 132? And if you don't have it, then
I don't have a number for you, but that doesn't represent revenue. That represents the annual cost to maintain for the trust funds, and I don't have that number. It's just under 10,000 at this point.
The revenue from trust funds?
The maintenance cost, which is what that line is in there for.
Yes, I understand. So what I would like to do is I would like to table page 1 till our next meeting. So we're paying $10,000 to maintain our trust funds. I would like to know what kind of revenue our trust funds are producing to make sure that we're not accidentally bleeding our trust funds dry in maintenance fees. Trust funds have to be invested in very specific ways, which are typically very low risk and very low return, because they're public money. So you have to, there's certain ways that you're allowed to invest in them. And so, for that reason, I think it would be advisable to know what our annual trust fund revenue is versus what we're paying to maintain it, to make sure that we're not making a mistake here. So, I would move to table the executive line, bottom line, till our next meeting, so we can get an answer on revenue.
Is there, so we have a motion to table page 1.
Is there any way to get it?
Bill,
Is there
I
a-
may have some
yes.
information before you decide on tabling it.
Yeah.
For the information for this board, the maintenance company that we have is Cambridge Trust. Given the limited amount of our total trust funds, this is the only vendor that the trustees have been able to find to manage our account. They have gone out on the market before, but because our account is so small with its bottom balance, other trust companies will not touch us.
I would back that up as a former trustee of the trust funds. I think this was part of an agreement with the town because the trust funds generated such little income that the town would pick up part of the cemetery expenses in addition to the management fees by Cambridge, and this goes back, what, 3 years, 2 or 3 years?
Back in 2017, Bob Sullivan approached the Board of Selectmen
Yeah.
and entered into agreement for 5 years for
Right.
the Board of Selectmen to cover the maintenance fees to allow the trust funds to recoup and reimburse their revenue line, rather than, as Kevin pointed out accurately, it was feeding upon the principal if it was going to be left alone.
And it was
And-
after that, Bill, because I was the chair, and you came in when we did the 10,000.
Right, and,
Probably
and
3 years ago.
I know that we had looked at potential trust fund managers back then, and we had like zero interest other than Cambridge. And to be honest with you, I thought they were doing a pretty darn good job for the amount of money that they were charging us.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Rurl.
So, as a former trustee of the trust funds myself, I also have some familiarity. And in fact, it took a vote of the town to be able to change our trust funds from direct management of the trustees, we typically have 3 trustees, to be able to go to a third-party vendor to manage those trust funds. I don't dispute that Cambridge Trust does an excellent job. I don't dispute that they're the only vendor that'll take the game, as it were. But we have to ask ourselves, as a town, if we're spending more money to maintain trust funds than the revenue that the trust funds are generating. So if we're losing money by having trust funds, then why are we having trust? Trust funds are for ongoing revenue.
As you know, some of these trusts cannot be dissolved. As a former trustee, you know that. We cannot dissolve those trusts. They are in perpetuity. That's the way they were set up. That's the way they were registered. They cannot be dissolved.
Thank you,
We've
Mr. Chairman.
looked into that.
That's an excellent point. Not all of the trust funds are of that situation. And so perhaps it might be wise to mitigate the losses by not maintaining trust funds that we perhaps shouldn't.
Did we get a
I think
second
that's-
on the motion?
I think that's a discussion for another day at this point.
Okay, well, there's a motion on the table,
There was a
so-
motion on the table. Was there a second?
Second.
Josh seconds. Okay, all in favor then?
I'll vote for that. I'd like to look at it again. What's
Okay.
this? What is that motion?
Okay, the motion is to
Let's look at it next time.
to table this, to table the trust funds, the discussion about the trust fund budget, and to get more detail as to the revenue that the trust fund generates.
For our next meeting, just
For our
table,
next
table,
meeting.
table page
Just
1
table
till our
this,
next meeting.
Table this budget for now, until the next meeting, so that information can be generated, so we can see what the revenue is from the trust funds, to see if they're.
It's
they're-
non-debatable. A table motion is non-debatable, so we should have the vote, please.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yeas. And all those opposed? 1, 2, 3. 3 nays. Any abstains? So the motion to table is approved. And we'll take it up at our next meeting.
So I just
Yes,
have a
I'm sorry.
question. So who's getting the information?
That's my, I think
Who-
John,
who
right?
know- Is
John.
it the trustees of the trust fund?
Well, I mean, if they want to come in and discuss this with us next week, or at our next meeting, they can. I'm guessing that we can invite them to come in and we can discuss their budget. And they can explain that to us.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Burrow.
John, is it easy enough to ask the trustees, or do you have direct access to what the?
No, I'd have to get that information from the trustees.
Okay, so, I don't care if the chair wants to request it from the trustees or request that the town
It makes no
administrator-
difference as long as we get the information that's been requested, wherever the source is. Ideally, I'd prefer to have it come directly from the trustees, but
So
if that's,
can you request that directly from them?
I'm comfortable with the fact that we'll get the correct information.
Okay, fine, fine.
Okay, so let's move on. We're going to table that. Let's move on to page 5, which is the supervisor of the checklist. And we're looking at a total budget for the supervisor of the checklist of $3,984.
So moved.
Okay, second? Ms. Bradbury, open for discussion? Looks reasonably straightforward.
We have less elections
The-
next year.
Say again?
I said we have less elections next year.
Correct. I mean, with the exception of the first line, which, you know, has essentially doubled. Not really sure what that is for, but it's we have the deliberative for the school, which is 6 hours and times 3 at $10. Deliberative for the town, 6 hours at 3 for $10. Town election, 14 hours, 3 at $10, and batching for the town election, 8 hours times 3 at $10. So we have 180, 420, 240. We have the state primary, 14 hours times 3 at $10 for $420. Batching, $240. State election, 14 hours times 3 at $10, and batching for that 8 hours times 3 for $10, and the monthly meetings, 2 hours times 3 times 12 at $10, and that includes the state-required meetings.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Burwell.
Yeah, this budget oscillates every other year. Every 2 years, it's really high, and then the opposite years, it's low.
Correct.
When there's no state or national election, it's low. On a year like 2022, where you're going to have state and national elections, it goes up.
It's a nominal increase and pretty substantiated at this point based on the elections that are coming up, and it's. Any questions? Mr. Roy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does the money that is paid to election observers come out of this? Is that what that,
Move you're hitting the mic, sorry.
does the money that pays the election observers come out of this?
No, that's, it's a different election, the ballot counters,
Yeah,
et cetera, that's out of it's not out of this one. This is strictly the supervisor's budget. It'll come, I think, Is that out of the town clerk's budget? Yeah, that's on the town clerk's budget.
Thank you.
Elections hit multiple budgets.
Okay. Any other further questions, discussion? Okay. So we'll make a motion to close the discussion on this.
So moved.
And
Second.
seconded. And so, all in favor of the select board, the supervisor checklist, budget of $3,964.00. Please raise your hands, or yay? Yay.
Abstain.
Okay, and one abstention.
Is that 9-1?
9-1. Mhm.
Oh, it's 901.
Eight,
Yeah, 9-0.
It's 8, it's 8-1.
801. She
8-0-1.
abstained, she
Yeah.
didn't vote.
8-0-1.
Yeah.
Okay, the next page is our page, NBC, page 9.
I thought we'd just go to the.
So we're looking at a select board budget of $1,279, which is a $337 increase, or 35.77% increase from previous year. Make a motion to open discussion.
So moved.
Okay. Second, any seconds? Second. By Maureen Quinn. Okay, so we have a budget of $1,279, or an increase of $337, or 35.77%. We had a price increase, I think, from the transcriptionist, is that correct, John?
Correct?
Yes.
Okay, what did that go up to?
She's
Back up.
1836 an hour.
18, okay, I see that. And that's been captured in this budget, I take it, so. It's pretty straightforward. Any discussions, comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Burrell?
So I know this committee has certainly struggled with getting transcriptionists to keep our minutes in the past. But again, I will go to the point that town employee salary adjustments makes up a huge part of the overall budget increase, and it would be better suited to follow past practice of 2019 and 2020 and make that a standalone warrant article to ensure that they get them and to get the number down to where it may pass, and for that reason, I will vote no on this budget.
Thank you, Mr. Burrell. Any other discussion, comments? Mr. Dill?
This wasn't a salary adjustment, this is where the
This
new
is-
transcriptionist was hired.
Yep. I was going to point out, this is not a salaried position. Any further discussions, comments? Okay, we'll make a motion to close the discussion on this, and we'll move the NBC budget of $1,279.00, a $337 increase, or 35.77% increase over last year's budget. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.
Oh, 7.
7. Okay, 7 yay. All opposed? 1. Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion passes.
That counts off by 1.
Yeah, it wa-
8 to 1, sorry. I'm gonna have you start taking the vote count.
Oh, boy. You're gonna have to go slower.
Oh, okay, all right.
So what was that? 8
8 to 1.
yes, 1 no?
I assume you
Yes.
voted.
I thought it was
Yep, there were no abstentions.
abstentions.
Nope. So,
Oh, sorry.
All right, so our next up is page 13, legal. This is pretty much driven by the legal activity of the select board in the town. So we're looking at a budget of, a flat budget of $44,000, $428 increase, or 0.98% increase from the previous year. So I'll take a motion to open for discussion. So moved, seconded by Jocelyn. I'm sorry, Maureen, excuse me. And so, let's discuss. It's pretty straightforward. I don't know that we have a whole lot of control over the legal activity of the town at this point. But pretty straightforward. If there's any discussion, comments? None?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm assuming that this is the number that the lawyer and legal teams have said is a retainer?
No, this is our approximate budget for any legal activity that we may engage in. So this doesn't just, this covers Board of Selectmen, this covers if police, anything we have legal activity on.
Anything town-related?
Anything town-related.
The lawyers are not on retainer?
No, we have a contract with
Oh,
Upton
okay,
and Hatfield,
okay.
but this isn't just
Fair.
a retainer amount, is what,
No, I understand, but they're not, there is,
I think that's actually what my question was.
Yep.
This is the number that's given to us by the Hatfield, Upton and Hatfield.
this is
to
the,
be able to
Or this is
represent
the
us.
actual spending?
this is the estimate of actual spending.
Okay.
And again, it's a really hard number to estimate.
correct. Yes, Mr. Burwell.
Yeah, so is the retainer fee buried in the 44,000?
I'd have to ask John on that one.
Well, we don't have a retainer fee. We have, Upton and Hatfield are our counselors of choice. We are billed for hours used only.
Okay, so, all right.
So it's just an hourly type arrangement?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Roy.
If someone could answer, how much did we spend last year versus this? Is this like kind of a, and I don't mean budgeted, I mean, how much did we
Our
spend?
year-to-date, as of the last run, which we're looking at here, was 30,000.
Now, for 2020, Terry, that's the second column, you'll see 2020 actual.
Oh, okay.
It was 21. It was, one, it was a slow year, but two, there was a lot of stuff that was held back because of the courts being shut down for so long. So
Yeah.
we're still dealing with stuff that came up that year.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? Okay, so I'll move this to close and take a motion to accept the legal budget. Okay, $44,000.00, which is an increase of $428 or 0.98%.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Quinn and Jocelyn. All in favor? Looks unanimous. Okay, moving on to page 18 for the zoning board. They are looking at a budget of $4,366, which is an increase of $980 or 28.94% from previous year.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, what page did you say?
Page 18.
There we go, sorry.
For the zoning board, motion to open for discussion. Second. Jocelyn, okay. All right, so we are looking at a budget from the zoning board of $4,366, $980 increase, or 28.94%. It would look like the majority of the increase is coming from the zoning board part-time employee, which has an increase of $977 of the $980 increase in the total budget. Looks like this is a result of a 50-cent raise for the secretary at 120 hours per year. Any discussion, comments? Done? Okay, so I'll close that and make a motion to accept the zoning board budget of $4,366, an increase of $980, or 28.94%. All those, I got to take a second.
Second.
Maureen, second. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, you got 8 too, right? Okay. All those opposed? 1 and 0 abstain. Motion is approved. And we'll move on to cemeteries. Page? It is page 24 in our budget. So we are looking at a cemetery budget for 2022 is $46,401.00, which is a $24,949 increase, or a 116.30% increase from the previous year. Make a motion to open for discussion. Second, Bonnie. Okay. So let's discuss.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry, Josh.
Noticing, there's not a lot of explanation as to why, but some significant increases on these lines from the previous year. And maybe
Yeah.
Representative Dill can maybe shed some light on why there's such significant increases on these lines?
It really comes down to tree care. We're getting hammered on ash borer. And I mean, this isn't even gonna come close to cutting out all the trees that we're gonna have to remove from the cemeteries. Mowing has gone up considerably as well, but really tree care is what's hammering them.
You know, are these are services that are subcontracted out
Oh,
to
yeah.
other companies and not
Oh,
held
yeah.
by?
The cemetery trustees aren't removing trees. No, they contract for mowing, and they contract job by job for tree removal.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bilodeau.
No, go right ahead.
Do we have signed contracts totaling the $15,000?
We're gonna bid for mowing in the spring.
That's for mowing.
That's for the
Tree
maintenance. For the tree, that is an estimate, and I'm gonna tell you it's going to be far short of what the actual tree removal is gonna cost. They're gonna be able to remove some trees. Last year, we did a couple big tree removals, or one very big tree removal, and a lot of that money was private donation. So if we can get that again, it's just, I mean, we have stone walls full of trees, and they're maple and ash. And those maples are getting old, and the ash trees are just getting decimated. It's gonna be the same thing when we come up on highway. I mean, our tree budget is woefully inadequate.
Mr. Bilodeau.
I will announce that I will abstain from this vote because I'm a member of the cemetery committee, elected member of the cemetery committee, just recently elected. I've only been to several meetings, as many as we've had.
Okay.
And if people don't know, in Deerfield, there's 109, don't quote me on the exact numbers, there's 109 cemeteries in Deerfield. You go by them and you see them. And to date, the town has been only taking care of the ones that they own, about 8 or 9 of them. But in discovery, from the cemetery committee, very diligent individuals, discovered that the town actually owns 29 cemeteries. So if you look at those 20 more that belong to the town, as Alden said, they're just covered with tree death. I mean, the trees would fall and damage the monuments. So there's an obligation that the town has to maintain the cemeteries. The other item that's a number that you see here is the $5,000. As I understand it, the cemetery superintendent, so to speak, was, okay, help me out.
Mark Young.
Was Mark Young as the road agent. He was
donating a lot of his time.
He was donating that role of meeting people and showing them where the plot would be and how they would go about doing it. And then he left to be road agent, so he was approached by the cemetery committee. Would you do this? Would you continue to do this? Would you continue to do this for us? Please continue to do this, but he's not gonna do it voluntarily, so they agreed to a $5,000 salary.
Okay.
So those are a couple of the biggies that come up here.
The other cemetery news is we have increased the plot price.
Yes.
It was cheap. It's still quite affordable, but it's not as inexpensive as it was.
Sorry. So, I mean, I know that there were discussions a couple of years back to increase that superintendent line from 5,000, I think, to 25,000 to be competitive with towns. Is that still the mindset of the cemetery trustees at this point?
Yeah.
But it's not in this budget. It'll perhaps be
Oh,
down.
yeah, no.
down the road.
Presently, Mark Young has agreed to continue to do that for $5,000. Someday in the future, when he should decide that he would like to retire completely,
Sure.
we would be faced with trying to find someone to do it.
Okay. And if I recall correctly, the cemetery trustee, or the cemetery trust funds were not generating anywhere near the cost
No.
of maintenance
No.
going forward.
No.
Is that still the case?
The committee members, several, 2 or 3 very diligent ones, have reviewed all the trusts. Some trusts are specific for that plot, and some trusts is open to the cemetery. So the committee is trying to focus the work in some of those cemeteries that can then be taken from those trusts. But as you know, as a member of the trust funds in the past, it's a very difficult task. And it's not a lot of money. It's, $200, $300, $400.
No.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Roy.
I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Go ahead, Joanne.
Well, I'm sorry I missed it. It just went right past me. The difference between tree care and contractors, the $15,000 number.
Yeah.
And the $25,000 number, one is for removal of trees, is that the 25,000?
Contractors are gonna be maintenance, so mowing,
Right.
et cetera, whereas the tree removal is tree removal. That's when you see a crane out there pulling a tree out of
Yeah,
it.
and so that's the 15,000?
Yes.
You're not gonna get many of them cut down.
No,
Yes, Mr. Roy.
Thank you, which brings me to my question. Is there a mechanism for the cemetery committee or trustees to accept donations? Is there a GoFundMe page? Are we utilizing technology?
they can accept donations. Like I said, the major tree removal project up on the parade, I can't remember if it was half or 3/4 funded by private donations. So they readily accept them. I don't know if they have a GoFundMe page, but the cemeteries do accept private donations.
And lastly, is there any thought of, since it sounds like this is woefully short and it could end up in a budget that doesn't pass, is there any thought to a warrant article to actually fully fund the cemetery?
Yes.
I didn't want to speak for the cemeteries, but yes.
I'm going to say yes, but please understand that being new on it, and I believe there'll be 3 warrant articles, and they will specifically address some money to be set aside for that tree care, for increasing that tree care here.
Okay.
And one of the other warrant articles will be establishing a cemetery maintenance fund that would be funded by surplus funds at the end of the year, like like the fire truck fund that we're contributing to, so someday if you have to buy a fire truck, you don't have to take it all out of taxes. So that's another one. And I can't remember what the third one is now.
I think it was plotting.
To put money aside to start
Douse Cape.
building Dowstate, which is a small cemetery that the town owns, and it's on a 3-acre piece off of Kate Road.
On the corner of Kate and Nottingham Road. And I know it personally because I take care of it, and I live just one sketch away. Yes, it's a 3.5-acre piece in 1980-something. The town was donated the cemetery and that plot of land by a gentleman in Epsom. And thank you very much, and we voted to accept it. The cemetery is one of the older cemeteries. The town's supposed to maintain that one also because they own it, but they don't. So some of us volunteers do that, mow and pick up brush and stuff. And that 3.5-acre piece, it has frontage on Kate Road and Nottingham Road, right before the power lines, if you're familiar with the run. So the trustees have approached Mark Young to kind of give us a sense of what would the effort and what would the expense be to bring that up to cemetery. You have to dig a test pit, you have to do a survey, you have to lay it out, you'd have to make improvements, so all of those things, they're trying to put the numbers together.
Okay, well,
Because we're running out of space.
I'm encouraged to hear that there's a warrant article forthcoming.
Yes.
I think that's a great idea, thank you.
So is the warrant article, or the trifecta of your warrant articles for the cemeteries, that would be in addition to what's in the
Yes,
budget? So you
yes,
can, because this is, as we can all
Standalone,
tell,
yes.
it's short.
Right.
And so that would
Yes.
most of that.
Help us do more.
Is that Dowsgate Cemetery on the Dowsgate Town Forest, near that trail? Different place?
No, because Dowskate's,
Well, go ahead.
yeah, I don't think it's,
It doesn't touch each other because you have.
it's just the same name for the
Yeah, okay.
donation.
All right, got it.
Yeah, don't get me started. It's the power lines with the substation.
Yeah.
The power lines are separate from the substation property. So you have the Douse Case Cemetery, you have the power lines, you have the substation, 65 acres, and then we have Douse Cate Town Forest, which is 185 acres. Well, it's not 185 because it's the Weiss piece is what part of Douse Cate, and that's in my backyard. So anyway.
So if we get a plot by the substation, we can just plug in?
You'll be lit.
Okay, excellent. Super.
Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Earl.
Just a quick question for Mr. Bilodeau. I'm also greatly encouraged by the idea of warrant articles because I think it'll be overwhelmingly supported by the town. Is the desire, the hope to have them for this year's ballot?
Oh,
Or
yeah,
not?
the three warrant articles have been prepared. I think, not me, but the secretary has conversed with John several times. I think legal people have already looked at it, put it in the right format. We've discussed at cemetery, how much money should we put in? Let's be reasonable, let's not be ridiculous, from my point of view. And they'll be there, there'll be 3 there.
Great, thank you.
We'll see them.
Good. All right, thank you.
And tomorrow morning at 9:30 is a cemetery committee meeting, and they'd be thrilled to death if I report that we passed this tonight.
Was there a pun intended there? or-
That is some good salesmanship right there, boy. I'm telling you.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, we'll close discussion on this and take a motion to vote on the cemetery budget of $46,401, which is a $24,949 increase, or 116.30%.
Second.
Second, Bonnie Bobian. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1 abstention.
Abstention.
The motion passes. Okay, we're getting through this. Advertising and regional dues. Regional Association, page 28.
Thank you.
And we are looking at a
bottom line of, I don't know why I have two of these, but I do. It's page 28, and we're looking at a select board budget of $4,514.00, which is a $495 increase from the previous year, and a 12.32% increase as well. So I'll take a motion to open for discussion.
I move.
Moved by Joanne, seconded by Maureen Quinn, and so we're open for discussion. Looks like it's,
This is one of those, it is what it is.
right. Yep. That's for department, let's
It's
see.
for the New Hampshire Municipal Association.
Association,
Oh, right.
yep, fun. So any questions, comments, discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr.
Do you have
Earl.
a question? Do you-
No, I was just gonna,
I'm sorry, Josh, I
I was
didn't,
just gonna just clarify that the amount that you're requesting for this year was the actual cost of last year?
It's the cost, is it the cost for last year or the cost for next year? I'm trying.
It's based on the 2021 invoice. We don't get invoiced until the very end of the year, so I have no idea what 2022 will be.
Okay.
That's all I can do is base it on what we've paid this year.
And it's based on population, I believe. Right? Yeah.
okay, Mr. Verbo.
Mr. Chairman, so, while they certainly do, New Hampshire Municipal Association certainly does provide valuable services to communities. Unfortunately, they also spend a fair amount of money lobbying in Concord and using people's tax money to lobby for positions that they may or may not agree with. I find particularly objectionable, and it is for that reason and that reason alone that I will be voting no on this budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Verbo. Any other conversation, discussion? Mr. Roy?
Very shortly, I would second Representative Verville. I have seen them in Concord arguing positions for larger communities that would not necessarily, not only not benefit a community such as Deerfield, but would be detrimental to it. And as we have no say in what they do with it, I'm not a fan, and I will not be supporting it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Roy. Mr. Cresswell?
One further question.
Sure.
What would be the consequence of not being a part of this association?
You want
Or
to speak
not
to that
paying
one,
these
John?
dues?
You use them more often than we do.
I use them quite often for a legal opinion. Since we're a member, we don't have to pay for that. They have a legal staff. We also use it to post all of our classified ads for openings, requests for bids, requests for proposals. It gets it out to a larger audience, and that's all part of our membership.
Okay. So, Mr. Harrington, we already pay a legal team for legal advice that we've
This is saving
budgeted.
us money.
This is a separate thing?
This is free legal advice,
Well, it's not. It's costing us $4,500.
which is pretty cheap.
But we're already spending $44,000 for a legal team.
This also allows other board chairs, such as Bill Von Hassel, the chairs of all the committees and other boards, to participate in their legal advice as well, whereas they wouldn't be normally accessing our town council. If they had particular questions, say on the planning board or zoning board, those chairs can reach out to New Hampshire Municipal to get some advice.
Okay. So in your opinion, we're getting our money's worth out of what we pay?
I can say that I use it regularly. I can't definitively say we get exactly $4,514 worth of.
73.
Okay.
Mr. Verville first, and then Ms. Bradbury.
Yeah, just real quick, the other, in defense of, I don't support the budget line item, but, I'll be full disclosure, they also provide, I don't believe it's free, but it's pretty low cost, training. So, they have like a training class. If you're a newly elected budget committee member, you can go to a, Budget Committee 101 sort of class to get the lay of the land. They do the same thing for other types of committees and parts of municipal government. So that is another benefit of membership. It's just the lobbying I don't like.
Sure. Ms. Bradbury?
Yes, I think it's a bargain. I'm delighted that we have access to it. The going rate for a senior attorney in the state of New Hampshire is roughly between $400 and $500 an hour, and we just couldn't come close to getting the kind of advice that we get for this price if we were going out to those attorneys. They're really pricey. And that's just a fact of life. It's unfortunate.
I mean, from my own personal experience, I've accessed them, and it would probably have cost, I don't know how much Upton and Hatfield would cost per hour for me to talk with them about issues. But, you know, the lobbying aspect aside of it, I do think that they provide a decent service. You know, from my own perspective, I'm paying $800 to a law firm right now for an hour, so. Yeah,
One lawyer?
one lawyer.
Oh, Lord. you
So
know.
I think that at this point, it's for 44, was it $4,500? It's probably a pretty decent deal.
Mr. Chair.
Again, lobbying aside, it is, I guess, what they do. Mr. Roy?
Yeah, I agree. It is the lobbying that would have me vote against them. I do have a question, though. If we follow their legal advice and we get sued based on that, do they represent us? Or?
Good question.
I don't think so.
I don't
No.
think
I'm almost
so.
certain.
I don't think there's a client lawyer, client-lawyer relationship there. They provide legal advice to the municipality. We happen to be part of that municipality, but I don't think there's a client relationship that exists there, so I don't know if there's any duty to defend.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
It's an interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, if they give us
If they're
legal
giving
advice
us
and we
advice,
follow it and we get
right.
sued, we're on our own.
Correct. Do we come under their professional liability coverage? I do not know, but I would hazard a guess that there would be no coverage. That's my opinion. I might be wrong on that, but. Any other discussions, comments? So we'll move to close the discussion and make a motion to accept the bottom line for the legal department, for assessing and association dues of $4,514, which is a $495 increase, a 12.32% increase from the previous year. Seconded, Bonnie. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 yeas. All opposed? 3. Any abstention? No? Okay. So the motion passes. We only have a few more to go. And they're relatively easy. Water holes, page 36. We're looking at a budget of $6,503.00, which is a decrease of $698, or a negative decrease of 9.69%, excuse me.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 36.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was going 32.
So 6,503, which is a decrease of $698, or a decrease of 9.69% from the previous year, excuse me. So I'll make a motion to open for discussion. Josh?
Louder.
And let's discuss. I mean, it seems reasonably straightforward. We have telephone. It looks like there's been a reduction from previous years
Mr. Chairman?
for water holes, fire hydrants. Mr. Orville?
Yeah, so I agree. There's a reduction in telephone. But we haven't spent any telephone money in at least 2 years. Why aren't we just holding that line open with $1? So actually, I guess what I'll say is I would move to change line 014220.03.341 I would reduce that by $251 to hold it open with $1. I'd look for a second.
So we have a motion to move 01.4220.03.341 by $251, you said?
Yep.
To make that a $1 placeholder. Is there a second?
A second.
Mr. Roy seconds. All in favor?
Well, discussion.
We have some
Discussion, excuse me, I'm sorry, discussion.
Is that close?
Let's,
Alden?
yeah,
Is that
yeah, yeah. Not so much. So let's have a discussion. Yes, Josh?
Would it be appropriate, seeing that the fire chief, Matt Fisher, is coming in to talk with us?
I
in our
believe next
upcoming meeting?
Tuesday.
Would it be appropriate to table this to ask him directly what that expense is for?
Tabling motion's always in order.
We can table the motion
I'd second tabling motion.
Yeah.
and then table this.
Because if there's a specific reason why he's asking for that amount, I guess I'd like to hear what
Sure.
that is for.
Sure. So we have a motion to table this reduction.
Kevin seconds.
Second?
Kevin did.
Second. All in favor? Looks unanimous. So we're going to table this reduction, and I'll take a motion to table this particular part of the budget.
So moved.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that's what it was. I'll
Oh,
second.
well, I thought you were,
I think he was just, I thought he was just tabling that.
I thought you were tabling the
He
reduction.
made the tabling motion. I think he was tabling this whole section
Okay.
until we could hear from the fire
Okay.
chief.
Yeah,
Is that
you-
correct?
Yes.
Is that what you wanted to do?
Apologize if it's
Okay.
Not clear on that.
Okay, so I'll just
Chief Fisher's coming in to discuss this with us.
correct,
next
but I think Mr. Verbal had already made the motion to reduce that line.
Tabling motion is in
Table
order
it.
at any time.
Yeah,
All
it takes
right.
precedent.
Okay, so I don't think we need to redo that.
What are we guessing next?
All right, so we're going to table that until our next meeting to discuss with Mr. Fisher.
Possibly.
And that's everything. The whole discussion.
Yes. Yep, we'll table that for our next meeting, and Mr. Fisher is going to be in, you said on Tuesday?
I believe Tuesday, last time
Tuesday?
I talked to him, yeah.
Okay.
The road agent, well, we haven't discussed if we're having a
We
meeting
have,
on
yeah,
Thursday.
okay, so the bridges, we're looking at a $1.
Page?
Yep,
Page
52.
52. Bridges, $1, it's a placeholder. I'll entertain a motion to discuss, but, if there's no motion, then, or second, then,
Won't move to discuss.
I'll move the dollar.
yeah, let's move the dollar. Second?
Always starts with a dollar.
Yeah, okay, so we have a second to move the dollar, and all in favor? Looks unanimous. Mr. Dill?
Sorry,
Yep. Okay,
just flipping over to the damn page.
sorry. All right, and our next is dams, which is page 54.
The damn fees went up.
The dam page, yes, page 54. And we are looking at a budget of $500.00 with an increase of $100.00, or a 25% increase from the previous year. Take a motion to open for discussion.
I'll make a motion to open for discussion,
Okay, second.
just because
Okay.
this is my favorite one. Just
That's your
'cause I get-
favorite line?
I get to
Okay.
say the state increased the damn fees.
Damn. Darn it.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussions, comments?
This is on Pleasant Lake Dam, if anybody's wondering on which one it
Is that where this is?
Yeah.
Okay. This is for the inspection fees and
Yep.
permits and all that,
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
I'll move the 500.
Move the 500, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? All opposed? It's unanimous. And we will move on to Memorial Day Patriotic Purposes, page 73.
63. No, sorry, 73.
73. So we're looking at a budget of $600, which is there is absolutely no increase. It's a 0%, straight across the line. And so I'll entertain a motion to
Mr. Chairman, I'll move the 600.
move 600.
Second.
All in favor? Looks unanimous, okay.
Is that for fireworks?
No,
I
that's
think
for,
it's for the-
mostly for flags.
For the
on-
flags, I think, right?
I think you said replacing a couple of old flags, too.
Yeah, okay. And Heritage Commission, which is page 74. Again, we are looking at a $600 flat budget.
I'll move the $600.
Second.
All in favor? Looks unanimous. Thank you. And, let's see. Debt service, $1. We're gonna have somebody move the.
I'll move the $1.
Second, we're on page 85.
Conservation?
Nope, that would be tax anticipation note, debt service. Page 85.
No, but you were just saying we had conservation on there.
So I'll move the $1.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. And last but not least is the conservation budget, which is page 78 of our budget. And we are looking at a $3,299 budget, which is a $498 increase, or 17.78% from previous year. We have a motion to open for discussion. Bonnie?
Yes.
Second.
Second, Maureen?
I got discussion. Since
Yep.
we're having Sarita or Haley come to talk to us, as soon as we can find the right day for them, I
Mhm.
would like to postpone this until they can come and talk to us.
Okay.
It's pretty simple. I mean, it's a secretary increase. I don't think it's something that we need to bring somebody in to talk about.
Did she offer to come in?
She's willing to come in.
Okay.
It's
I
pretty
mean-
straightforward.
It's okay, I mean, yeah. if
It's
yeah,
very,
if
it's straightforward, and we
yeah.
have the backup right here.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
So, yes, Mr. Roy?
I just have a question. What is the dues, CC dues, the $533?
To the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. And the Lamprey River Watershed and the Bear Paw Regional Greenways. Is who we've been paying dues to.
Does anyone know what we get for those dues?
Well, Bear Paw does a lot of our, holds a lot of the easements in common, does a lot of the monitoring for us. Lamprey River, we're a member of the Lamprey River Watershed Association, and it would make sense to be a member of the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. I don't think any of those are out of line.
I'm just curious what they do.
Things in line.
Huh?
Training.
Mr.
Chair,
Cresswell.
I have a quick question. Mr. Dill, I know you had said that it's a straightforward thing. Is the secretary's position, is that a new position for this year, or is that just an increase?
It's
on
just,
the previous?
it's an increase of hours, I believe. They're in the middle of doing a couple things, but John, I was out that meeting.
The hours are depending on how long their meetings last, but you have to remember that salary, or excuse me, that hourly rate, wage, has two warrant article COLAs built into it over time that the budget has not kept up with.
Any further discussion? Do we want to take a vote to see if Sarita wants to come in, or are we pretty comfortable with the budget the way it is?
Would you like to hear more about the
I would, I'll
reviews
second
the
it, yeah.
association?
Yeah, I'll support the motion.
Okay, so I'll accept the motion to have Sarita come to us at a convenient time. Second, Mr. Verbo?
Yeah, I'll
Bradbury?
certainly second it. I mean, you know, we've always given a courtesy to members if they have questions or want an opportunity to discuss. So.
Sure. Okay. So, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All opposed? 1. And 0 abstention. You'll check with Sarita and see what time she'll have to
It may
visit
be,
with us.
maybe Haley, but.
Or Haley, whatever.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Verbo?
And Ms. Bradbury, if you could ask her to bring some information about what some of the organizations do.
Yes,
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, that's pretty much hits most of our agenda tonight. Any citizens' comments? Mr. Harrington?
Were you going to cover ambulance? It's in the top line. I think you skipped over that.
I may
What's the line,
have.
John? Do you know what page?
32.
32.
32.
You know, for some reason or another, I missed that, but I think,
Mr. Chairman, I will move the ambulance at $15,500.
Get to the page,
Second.
please.
okay, we'll open that to discussion.
This is a contracted service.
Page is it?
15,000.
32.
What was the line item again?
It's $15,500.
And I don't have it with me. Was there an increase?
There
Mr.
is.
Chairman, it's my motion,
Oh,
so I
I'm
speak
sorry.
first. It's just under 35% increase. This is a contracted service. We contract
Don't-
with
yeah, we don't have
Raymond
much-
for the ambulance.
So
You
we
know,
don't have much control
We
over
don't,
the pricing.
and the default budget will carry that number, you know, that the missing money will have to be found somewhere else, because we're
Contracted,
not,
so-
we're not gonna be without an ambulance service. So
Right.
there's not really a lot of discussion or debate, unless
Actually,
we
I have a
wanna
question.
start our own ambulance service.
I have a
Rowe.
question. Is this something that was put out to bid, or is this the only company in
This
town?
is, it's not even in town. This is like
I mean,
a company.
Raymond, Raymond.
It's it.
Yeah,
Is it
I
Raymond?
think
It's Raymond.
It's Raymond.
It may come as a surprise to some people.
Yes.
We don't have an ambulance.
I can
Mr.
speak
Cressler.
to some of this with staffing on ambulances and the private ambulance services that have been covering smaller communities, municipal, mutual aid agreements and such. Our neighbors, Candia, have purchased or are leasing their own ambulance right now because they're having a hard time getting service from their contracted service. We may have personal feelings on Raymond and their level of care at times, but we're thankful to have them. And they are probably the only service in the area that can respond in an expedient time. Whether their cost goes up, well, it's a small increase. I don't believe that it's negotiable from them if they're presenting that cost. I don't know that I necessarily agree with it 100%, but it is what it is,
So you're saying they have a leverage?
pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty
Okay.
much.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Because there is
no
no
other-
other service that would be able to respond here.
Correct.
AMR isn't able to respond. This is, if we're going to not run our own, which is not cheap, this is the contract.
And we,
AMR
much is
can't
it, do you
even
know?
cover
What's
their own
that?
city.
To set one up?
Yeah, if we were to set up our
To
own.
buy an ambulance.
Around 400,000 was the last number we heard.
I can tell you all about that.
There is an effort possibly too, but I mean, it's not something that we can just turn on.
we can't talk to
But we could maybe
Candia.
farm it out ourselves.
No.
So, yes, Ms.
Yeah.
Bradbury, shed a little bit of light on that if maybe that
Ms.
would answer.
Bradbury?
Yeah, I'm just curious, how are they doing for us?
Raymond?
Yeah.
My understanding is that they show up to every call that they're requested on. I can't speak to that 100% because I haven't been a member of the Deerfield Rescue Service for a while. But my understanding is that between them and they have a partnership with Exeter ALS that provides paramedic service, that they respond 90% or better of the time that they're called. They only have a couple of ambulances available, so if they're tied up on another ambulance, then I believe we have mutual aid agreements with Epsom and
Northwood.
Tri-Town and some other outlying communities that can come in. There was some discussion in years past about kind of joining with Candia and maybe another town to provide our own ambulance service, the cost on that is substantial. Because it's not just the cost of the ambulance or the equipment, which can be $500,000, $400,000, or if you buy a used piece of equipment that's got some miles on it, the maintenance costs on those are substantial. And then you have to staff it, and you have to be able to supply it. And that's millions a year in supplies and staff, and the only recourse you have is billing. And if
Yeah.
you don't get the money from the billing, then
I was going to point that out, that is the one advantage of having our own ambulance. It is something that, long-term, we're working on. The billing is huge, and it's something that people don't automatically notice when we start the ambulance, but there's a lot of billing that goes into it. And you kind of find, when I was a selectman in Northwood, we were paying for our own ambulance to replace it every 4 to 5 years out of the billing. My personal opinion, these towns are growing, and Raymond is covering a long ways away. You know, they're covering 101 now. They've been covering 101, but they're covering 101. To get from the far end of 101 to the far end of town can take a while. But at this point, I'm darn glad we have this
at
contract.
this point, we're not ready to move into that next step, so.
So is this number, does it vary depending on how many calls they get, or is it a fixed fee?
I believe
This
this
is a
is a
fixed
fixed
rate.
fee,
Okay.
annual fee. They still bill the patients for the service. So depending on the number of calls that they have and where they transport to and how far they have to transport to, they can bill based on those numbers and the level of service that they provide. So they do have recourse in getting funding through those means. It's a small price to pay for a guaranteed service.
Mr. Chairman?
And that's what we're paying for.
Mr. Verl.
Yeah, and I reached out to some members of Rescue, because the percentage looks big, the dollar amount's not really all that much, but the percentage is big. And the feedback that I got from Rescue is, until Deerfield decides it wants to do an ambulance for itself, this is the deal for Deerfield, and this should just go through without issue, was the feedback I got from querying people I know in Rescue.
And we don't have the staffing
Anecdotally.
or the housing to have an ambulance right now. We would need a completely new station, safety complex, to be able just to house another piece of apparatus and to staff it with the equipment that they need, the personnel that they need. Not to mention that you'd have to have people, that we have a couple of per diem members in the fire department now that work up to, I think it's 30 hours a week. You'd then be covering either per diem or full-time people to cover that ambulance 24/7. So it's a much bigger expense.
Okay. Any further discussion, comments? So closed for discussion and approve, make a motion to approve the.
It's already moved, I moved the line.
Say again?
I moved that line when we
Oh,
started.
did you? Already, sorry.
All we have to do is
Okay.
vote.
So let's vote on approving that line. All in favor?
Aye.
Looks unanimous. Opposed? Nay. Okay. And we have one last piece of housekeeping. I floated out an email to everybody this afternoon about a potential meeting for Thursday. So I wanted to get, now we know that Steve Rollins will be able to come up and visit on Thursday. So I would like to gauge how many people would be able to attend on Thursday.
This
at 6
Thursday
o'clock.
evening?
Yeah.
Thursday evening.
2 days.
Yeah,
6
good.
o'clock. So I'm gonna have people raise hands to see if we can have enough people and get a quorum. So all those people that can attend, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I'm a maybe.
You're a maybe? Okay, so we have
I
6.
don't think I can, I just don't think I count for the quorum.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes,
Do
you
I?
Yes.
If you vote on anything, yes.
Yeah,
You-
okay.
All members are of equal status.
So it looks like, John, we would be able to have a meeting on Thursday at 6 o'clock here. I'll put it on an agenda. Steve would be on it.
It'll be a short meeting?
It'll
or-
be a short meeting.
Maybe Sarita.
And possibly Sarita, if she
Yeah.
can come in.
What do you mean
but,
a short meeting?
Well,
Just highway.
like highway
It's
and.
just for the highway?
Yeah.
highway,
Why
and
why are we having special just for the highway?
Why can't he come in next?
Why
Because-
can't he come in another,
Next
on a Tuesday?
Tuesday.
well, this is the time that he was available.
I-
John?
He is
can ask him
flexible.
on
He
Tuesday.
could possibly make next Tuesday work as well.
Okay.
I just need to ask.
I mean, we could potentially attack some of these other budget items. We still have a few to go.
The fire chief
Fire.
and transfers coming in Tuesday.
Fire chief, so that might be a lot.
It was, my thought was just to kind of space it out.
We don't have a meeting scheduled for next Tuesday because of the holiday. Is that
No, we
changing?
do.
No, we do.
Yes, we do.
We do.
The 23rd.
Not
Not on the agenda.
Oh, it's not on the
It's not
agenda?
listed
I
here.
didn't
You're
put it in
right.
my calendar,
I
so,
put it
It's
in
not
mine.
listed, you're right.
It isn't listed?
yeah. I got nervous because
Are you
I
looking at the latest version? Because there were a
have
couple of
November
versions early
30th.
on.
thought I had the latest version.
I think this is the latest one. Maybe it isn't.
November 30th.
Is this the latest?
Typically, we've taken
I
the
know
week
there's
of
not one
Thanksgiving
for
off.
December 30th.
I wasn't surprised when there wasn't.
I think
I
that's why
think
it's not
that's why I
there.
copied it from last
It is.
last
It is on
schedule.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. This is a cheat copy of the whole thing that I
Oh,
Okay, so
ran
this
off
might be an
from
oh,
updated.
that, this might be an outdated
town
one.
Is there a
website.
meeting for the
The town
23rd?
website.
There is a
23rd.
meeting for Tuesday, this Tuesday. Do we want to have a meeting for Thursday and space out the,
I'd rather not.
you'd rather not? We're gonna
Okay.
take a,
Did we vote
So we would have, how many would be on the next Tuesday
See,
meeting?
highway, fire, if highway can come in. I asked him today and he said Thursday would work, but I didn't ask him about Tuesday.
John said.
It would be highway, fire, and transfer station.
That's it?
Well, that- yeah, this-
I mean-
that-
Well, we've
those are
been here
big
2
numbers.
hours tonight. What's the
Fire's pretty
difference?
big.
Yeah.
It'll be 2 hours.
No,
There'll
I don't
probably
think
be a
so.
lot of questions about just because of the size.
So,
Anyway.
okay, you want to hold off then, and then have it on Tuesday and have those three come in on Tuesday?
Let me ask another question about scheduling. There is a blank date on Tuesday, the 30th, that we conceivably could have a meeting if we are running short of meetings and not
Yeah,
finished
the
with.
last, the schedule I have, which clearly is out of date, had us having a meeting on the
Yeah,
30th.
Really,
I
it's
did,
not on the
I
current
did
one,
as
I
well.
don't think. Phil, do you have 30th?
See, I didn't have the 23rd, but I have the 30th.
Yeah, I have the
think
30th as
Yeah,
well.
I didn't
Everybody
have
needs
the
to get
23rd.
I'll double check.
So, but we're meeting both Tuesdays.
Okay, so if
Yeah.
it's not on the schedule, which I don't think it is, I looked at it today off the town website. Do we want one for that date, or just to have a placeholder in case we don't finish with?
So meetings are,
With-
technically, meetings are at the call of the chair, but we've always tried to make sure, we can get most of the
Yeah.
membership. None of the dates that have been floated are a problem for me, so, I would defer to.
What about the highway agent, though? When can he come?
I just texted him.
Okay.
He said he could come in.
He's usually pretty fast,
He
so
could
if he
come in
gets
on
back.
Thursday. If he's flexible and can come in on Tuesday, we can do it next Tuesday. and
Yeah,
get-
he just said Tuesday's fine.
Tuesday is fine?
Great.
Okay.
Great. So no meeting Thursday.
No
Meeting
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 Thursday?
Thursday.
Good.
Then we'll pick this up again next Tuesday.
Tuesday.
And what about the 30th?
And then the 30th, how about we decide
Next week.
where we are
Okay.
next Tuesday?
The reason I ask is because in case I can't get Sarita and Haley or Haley for Tuesday, I
Let's-
would be able to offer the Tuesday after that, which is the 30th.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'd say offer it and see what they
Okay.
come back with.
Okay.
And then we'll go from there. Also. Okay, so it is 8:10.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Phil, everybody seconded. Sounds unanimous to me.
There's our unity.
Hey, we found something we could agree
Bill, do you
on.
have any idea on how, just message John in what order, just so we can give
Yeah.
them a heads up?
Sure. John, which button do I push on this thing? The stop? Yeah,